The next section is going to be focusing in onto what actually is the Birmingham Food System Strategy. So Sarah's actually all the speakers, but have given a bit of insight into the steps and the processes and the journey that it's been on to get to this point. So what Sarah and Dr. Rosie Jenkins, who's one of our senior officers within the food system team at Public Health, is going to go into the work streams, into the vision, the aims, the ambition, all of the kind of connected parts. But first, as I did give everybody a warning about all these videos that will be coming up today, will be another amazing Birmingham Food Revolution video. And hopefully this time will be without any boxes on the screen. So I will just get that PowerPoint up. Okay, so.
And Bradley, before we start the video, there's one question we had from the panel.
Yes.
If we could ask that question. So the question from Alex McDonough was, there's a distinct lack of places for SMEs to operate from in our city, and some of our city's existing food businesses have premises that are at risk of being sold off to developers. Is that something that you are aware of, and what leverage do we have as a local authority to prevent this from happening, specifically when it comes to assets that are owned by the local authority?
Sarah, do you want to come in on this one?
Yeah.
I mean, there will be an opportunity, luckily. There'll be a few speakers towards the end that will be in the last panel that will have insight into this kind of idea around the SMEs. But also tomorrow, we'll have a few more speakers who are actually working in this space around kind of food businesses, the food industry, on the delivery and business side of things. So do make sure to sign up to tomorrow. But I'll pass over to Sarah.
Thanks, Bradley. Yeah, I mean, there's no denying it is an incredibly challenging time. But I also know that the way that people are tackling the solutions is by looking at things through new lenses, thinking creatively about how things can be done differently. And I know that inclusive growth and economic growth is really core to our city's approach. And I can't speak for those decision makers and what's happening in those areas of the council, but certainly I know that inclusive growth and businesses are core to the solutions. We can also forward on those particular concerns to Councillor Khan and to others as well, to shape the feedback of what we feel needs to be preserved and is needed. But yeah, we've also got the economy and employment work stream of our strategy that Rosie leads as well. So this is something that will be coming out from that space too. So I'd say watch this space. We don't have all the answers yet, and it is definitely a challenging time, but we will be looking at putting forward the perspectives that actually put things in a different light, the value that properties can bring, as well as the costs that are associated with them. So we will see what we can achieve together again, and we'll definitely take your comments forward.
Thank you very much.
And just in response to Laura's comment about the challenges in the climate crisis and food availability, this is also something that we're covering within our work stream. So we'll talk about those shortly in the next section that we're on. But certainly the climate crisis is a core approach, core part of the entire food strategy as well.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move into the video and then I'll hand over to Rosie and Sarah.
Rising from the grassroots of this city, a revolution is happening. Birmingham Food Revolution. By the people, for the people. And we are here to show you what it's all about. In Birmingham, we are known for our ambition. And this revolution has ambition we know we can deliver. It's based on 3 principles. We collaborate, strengthening our partnerships and building on existing good practice. We empower, removing barriers and facilitating solutions. We equalise, focusing our actions to where they are needed most and reducing inequalities. Our food system is supported by 3 pillars: environment, communities, economy. Our 8-year strategy aims to regenerate our food system. This means we're not only reducing the unsustainable practices that damage these pillars, but we're also taking action to improve them. Our environment, our communities, and our economy need to be strong, and if any of them have cracks in the foundation, the entire system will crumble. Making these pillars strong is key to our entire city thriving. Our action plan delivers activities across 10 areas. The 4 cross-cutting themes and the 6 strategic work streams capture the actions that are needed to improve our whole food system. The plan has been co-produced with people across Birmingham and shaped by local, national and international evidence and best practice. Each of the 10 areas has an action group keeping our plans on track as we deliver the 8-year Birmingham Food System Strategy. The 4 cross-cutting themes are food skills and knowledge, food behaviour change, food security resilience, food innovation data and research. They allow people from across the city to work together to tackle issues and make improvements that impact the whole food system. The 6 work streams enable us to collaborate on solutions and coordinate our approaches in order to make an impact on key areas of the food system. Food production, food sourcing, food transformation, food waste and recycling, food economy and employment, food safety and standards. It turns the idea of the food system into a practical process, which will help us deliver a joined-up whole system approach. This is part of our city's vision for a better future, but the journey has already begun.
Okay, thank you for listening to the video. And to go into more detail now, I'll be handing over to Dr. Rosie Jenkins and Sarah Pullum.
Thanks, Bradley. So this is our Birmingham Food System Strategy, the front cover. I think the food revolution is really, what's really important to understand is that is the umbrella of the movement that's happening across our city. That is far bigger than any one organisation. But this strategy is designed to be the underpinning structure to help us bring it together and to coordinate our approaches and to make sure that we're not repeating things and like everybody doing the same projects, but equally we're also building on the great work that has gone before. So this is the basis of what the Birmingham Food System Strategy is about, and I thought I'd just show you how it's distinct from the food revolution, which is something that is far bigger. So next slide, please, Bradley. So our vision is to create a fair, sustainable and prosperous food system and economy where options are nutritious, affordable and desirable so everyone can thrive. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but the food system is like complex. It's huge, and we can only tackle these things if we look at all those elements in there. So this is the vision of what we're trying to achieve. And there's the 3 key principles that we cannot achieve this without considering, and we need to collaborate and strengthen the partnerships and build on the good practice that's already in the city. We need to empower and remove the barriers and facilitate the solutions, and we need to equalise and focus actions where they're needed most to reduce inequalities, because our city faces a huge amount of that already. Next slide, please. So the food system, we went through so many versions of trying to display what a food system is, that you have these complex webs and maps and all these directions. And I was like, well, what's actually useful? And really, it's just the food cycle plus the other organisations that are part of it. So this is simplified down now to be the most useful form of an illustration that we've got. If anybody's got some bright ideas of how else we can explain it, or know of any other publications, we'd welcome that. We have spoken and asked a lot of people, and this is what we've got for now. So obviously we start with growing and producing food, and there's a huge amount involved with the processing, transformation and packaging of food, around to distribution, selling it and purchasing it, preparing and eating it, waste and recycling and compost, and then what happens to that waste as it goes back round. But it's not just those areas too, but we've also got other parts of the food system. There are people involved with energy and resources, employment and skills and healthcare, and research and innovation and marketing and communication and regulation and enforcement and finance and investment. So what's really important to recognise is that we need to involve all the people in all these parts to actually create change. And sometimes just recognising that there's some areas that we don't don't know enough. Food safety, environmental health is in there. That comes under regulation and enforcement on this diagram, but it's also embedded in the strategy, which we'll be able to share too. But as we said, like, we were trying to work out what the purpose was of having an illustration, and it's just to put us on the same space to go, this is the sort of thing we're talking about. And actually the way we communicate what we're trying to achieve is through the work streams, which we will discuss shortly. But yeah, next slide, please. So our ambition, again, this is something that unites all of us across the city, and what we really need to achieve, and this is our long-term goal. This strategy is the first 8 years of what we're building the foundations at the moment, but this is something this is the long game. We are striving for this in our future. So this 8-year strategy is about creating the basis, and I'm excited to see what each of the strategies after that does to help us along the way to this ambition. And we're going to have a city where we consume a nutritious diet that helps us thrive. Our diet doesn't cause us harm. Our food system is ethical, fair, and eliminates injustice from farm to fork. We reduce harm to the world around us. We empower people and overcome barriers to providing healthy and sustainable food options. We respect and support diversity and choice. We're resilient and adapt, learn, and evolve. And we celebrate what food brings to our city. And I think these principles put together enables us all to come recognise different perspectives and how the areas that we work in can contribute to this ambition as well. Next slide, please. Over to Rosie for this part.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sarah. And hi, everyone. It's really brilliant to be with you today. So I am also a senior public health officer in the food system team, along with Bradley. And I particularly work on the food insecurity area, but also involved with lots of different aspects of food systems, including the economy and employment side as well. So just to talk you through, first of all, these 3 pillars, we thought these were a really important part of the food strategy because they actually set the tone for a lot of the things that we're trying to do with this aim of developing a regenerative food system, which is continually evolving and improving those 3 pillars of our environment, communities, and economy. And I think as we made the food strategy, we felt it was really important to recognise that it is no longer enough to simply reduce negative outcomes from unsustainable practices and to kind of be neutral. We know that that isn't enough anymore. And so our 8-year strategy goes beyond aiming for that kind of neutral ground and is aiming for a regenerative and sustainable food system. So that is through tackling these kind of 3 pillars, but also recognising that they are really interconnected. So first of all, we've got the environment pillar, which is pretty much what it says on the tin. So looking at kind of practices that are beneficial for the environment rather than negative for the environment. We've then got the communities pillar, and that includes that kind of recognises the importance that food has on communities and people's health, as Justin mentioned earlier in his keynote speech, the importance that food has and diets have on disease and on health outcomes and on health inequalities. But that also includes things like the social and cultural elements of eating. And again, people have already touched on the importance socially of food. So that's kind of also covered in that communities pillar. And then finally, we've got the economy pillar, which recognises the importance of kind of things like economic sustainability and making sure that, for example, interventions are kind of economically viable for the people who are instigating them. So kind of not just doing things that really are not cost effective, because we know that they won't last and they won't help us move towards that regenerative food system. And so these areas are all interconnected. So we need to make sure as we kind of start doing the actions for the food system strategy, that we are doing activities that positively impact all 3 of those pillars, rather than just focusing on one, which might lead to unintended negative consequences on the other pillars. So just by way of an example of this, thinking about, for example, introducing an initiative to ban single-use plastic in food businesses, we know that that would benefit the environment. But actually that could have a negative impact on the economy side if that isn't economically viable due to a lack of affordable alternative products. So that might therefore put a strain on food businesses whose profit margins are already small and cause them to go out of business. So then we need to be thinking through the kind of solutions that might be positive for all 3 of those pillars instead. And that might be looking at, for example, things like innovation of plastic alternatives, supporting bulk purchasing across food businesses to bring the prices down, or conducting campaigns to change customer behaviour so they bring a reusable container rather than kind of putting all of that on the food business. So that's just an example. That's not something we're committed to, but I think it helps us think through how kind of all three of those pillars are important in action in food systems. So I think that's everything on the pillars. So next slide, and that's back over to Sarah.
Thanks, Rosie. Yeah, one of the other changes that we made to the strategy once we came to the final version compared to the draft is we recognised that there's some real cross-cutting themes that relate to literally every area of our food system. So we've separated those out into 4 cross-cutting themes. And going forwards, the action plans that we're developing and the action groups and the people that we're bringing together, there will be action groups for each of these areas as well. And so with food skills and knowledge, that's about empowering citizens with the knowledge and skills in relation to the food system. So some of the projects that we're doing in that area already is we're creating culturally diverse healthy eating guidance, but also looking at other ways that we can develop skills and knowledge to make sure that the right people in the right places are empowered with these skills and knowledge in a way that is suitable for them, whether it's different like languages, but also different ways of processing information and how we understand things that are taught to us. So we need to be diverse in our ways of communicating this sort of information as well. So we're looking at this from all angles within food skills and knowledge, and there's plenty of other ways that we can consider how through this cross-cutting theme we can have a coordinated approach to empower people around food waste, around cooking, around understanding nutrition, and many other areas as well. Through the food behaviour change cross-cutting theme, that's about developing the capability, opportunity and motivation for key behaviours that will enable long-term change. And the absolutely, like, there's such a strong behavioural change sector across the city. There's departments within universities and design project groups that are looking at all sorts of different innovative approaches to behavioural science around food, and many other areas too. So the idea is that if we can bring these people together and look at how we go about achieving behaviour change that all the other themes and work streams are trying to achieve, that will be able to enable us to do much more coordinated action and much more effective action, because people aren't going to change their behaviour just because you said, oh, you should eat more carrots, and then, like, have you looked at the barriers and why they're not? Or have you looked at how we can motivate people? Like, do we know why they are or aren't doing these things, and where's the correct place for the solutions, and so on? So we're going to be developing and building on a lot of existing tools and developing new ones to support all the work streams with effective decision making to ensure that behaviour change is empowered as well. Food security and resilience is led by Rosie, who is doing an absolutely amazing job building on the approaches that are already happening in the city. So that's about increasing access to sufficient, affordable, nutritious and safe food for all citizens all the time, in every community and at every age. And that's not just about people themselves having enough food, but also looking at the resilience of our food system in terms of supply chains and making sure we can respond to shocks and issues, because with a population the size of ours, the just-in-time model of food that we have within our modern society means that if there's an issue, like, we don't have stores of food to support people. So we need to be really agile and think about that in quite a diverse way. And the final cross-cutting theme is food, innovation, data and research. So that's about gathering insights and data, facilitating innovation and collaboration, learning and research across the food system. And this is especially key because there's a huge amount of data out there that isn't shared or can't be shared because of GDPR and all these complex arrangements we have around data. So this is about overcoming some of those barriers, saying, what can we share with each other, and how can we monitor impacts? How can we make sure that what we're doing is working to then enable us to improve our approaches even more? How can we do effective evaluation of all the projects that we do deliver? How can we make sure that this entire strategy has a dashboard that can monitor impact and assess change over time? So this cross-cutting theme has brought together quite a lot of different academics already and other people across the system who have access to data and are involved with innovation and research. And the hope is that by bringing people together in that way, we'll be able to overcome some of the barriers that we know exist in this area. So our first meeting's next week, and I'm really excited to look at what we could do with coordinated approaches to data collection, as well as analysis of what's already out there in the system. And then over to the next slide for Rosie to discuss the work streams.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So now I'm going to just go through the 6 work streams. I recognise that this will probably feel to people on the call who aren't familiar with these really like a whistle-stop tour. So Niamh has already put a link to the strategy in the chat. So by all means, go away and have a look at that in your own time and kind of really delve into the work streams. I'll try and not make it too overwhelming because there's a lot in there. But kind of just to say that from the outset, that this is all now online and you can see this and access this for yourself. And I'm also sure that at some point we'll put contact details into the chat or on the screen so that we'll be able to, you can link up if you're particularly interested in one of the strategies I'm going to talk about, one of the work streams I'm going to talk about, then you'll be able to kind of link up with us on that and kind of delve into that in further detail. So the first of the work streams is food production, and this one is all about empowering and enabling citizens and local producers to grow food throughout the year and connect to the city's food system. So this is the one that is relating to growing, which I know that there are so many people who on this call already who are passionate about. And this kind of has 2 sub-objectives, this work stream. So the first one is around growing more in Birmingham. So supporting people to be able to do that, whether that's through using tools like planning and licensing, supporting community groups to be able to do that through like campaigns and growing in parks and things like that. And we've got the City of Nature strategy as well linked into this. Empowering communities and working with local enterprise partnerships and all sorts of different things, seeking to support people to grow more in Birmingham. And we also want to be maximising the good that comes from growing. So that might be through procurement levers, embedding food production into the food system, to be developing competencies, training and apprenticeship opportunities to help people get into the workforce around growing and producing food. That's also might be around kind of understanding more and doing initiatives that maximise the benefits of growing for health and well-being to reduce inequalities. We know that growing can be good for people's health and well-being. And that also might involve exploring approaches to maximise the quality and quantity of fruits and veg that are grown in Birmingham. And in terms of work already going on in this area, that just by way of kind of inspiring people on this call and showing how important this work stream is, this is an area which is already really active in Birmingham. There are passionate individuals, groups and organisations who are striving to create a strong food system which connects us to our roots. That was a growing pun, and I think that was the first of the food puns of today. So always good to just be keeping a tally of food related puns in these sorts of meetings, because they do come up quite a lot. They're very easy to do accidentally. So yeah, fantastic work already in growing in the city. And so we've got lots of groups who are working to educate and upskill people around where food comes from, how it grows, what's involved with making the food on our plate. And this work that they're doing breaks down barriers and is inclusive of all people, no matter their social standing, skill level, age, ability, language or culture. And we've got loads of examples of groups who are working with really specific communities on kind of supporting them to be growing in ways that are culturally and socially appropriate. So for example, we've got Ampersand Project who are helping to teach families how food is grown and how they can do it themselves. And we've got the Grand Union Growing Project, which supports people in crisis and experiencing homelessness in a way that is accepting of them, that goes beyond growing food to celebrate the commitment and positive contributions being made by individuals. So the growing space is full of organisations striving to make a positive impact on the food system. And we've got lots of kind of people who are real experts in this. For example, the Active Wellbeing Society, the Urban Agriculture Association, are some of the many groups working to enhance our food system. And we have the first of the action groups. We're going to talk a bit about the action groups and how we are going to kind of the how of the strategy later on. This is a bit of a spoiler for that, but we've got the first action group for food growing next week, which is really exciting, bringing together many of these passionate individuals and groups working in growing. So that is the food production work stream. The next one is food sourcing. And so food sourcing is all about increasing both supply and demand for local, environmentally sustainable, ethical and nutritious foods in the food system. And so as the kind of sub-objectives of this, we've got increasing the amount of local food in the city's food system. So that is looking at increasing demand and expectation of seasonal, local, sustainable food sourcing with ethical, transparent supply chains. And I just wanted to pick up on that seasonal aspect, because I think that's really important as well, and probably something we don't talk about enough, is that in the UK, we've come to expect foods to be available at all times of year. So for example, if you think of a butternut squash, it's something that we associate with autumn, and we kind of know through that association that it's probably grown around autumn. Same with like pumpkins and things like that. But actually we expect butternut squash all year round, because that is what we've become used to in our food system. So there's kind of, so that seasonal aspect is quite an important key in unlocking that the local side in kind of expectations and demands. We also want to increase the amount of local food in our city's food system through supporting businesses, especially those in the public sector, to adopt local sourcing in their food procurement, and also to be supporting more the rural urban connection. And so that just answers Hayley's question, which was in the Q&A box, around the kind of local rural side of this. So this workstream is considering the rural farmers and producers who are around us, particularly in the shires around us in the West Midlands and Wales, and are seeking to connect them to Birmingham's food system. The second kind of sub-objective of the food sourcing workstream is around overcoming barriers to food sourcing. So, for example, exploring how local hubs and markets might be able to overcome some of the barriers and logistics here. Looking at the challenges of food sourcing for at-risk groups, and developing solutions, for example, for those who are unable to purchase in bulk, or who are unable to afford the minimum order amount required for deliveries, and implement solutions for that. And so that's a good example there of how a cross-cutting theme links into one of the work streams. So by looking at people who might be unable to afford the minimum amount for deliveries, that kind of links into that food strategy and food security and resilient work stream, cross-cutting theme of the strategy through this work stream. This also, overcoming barriers to food sourcing, might also involve looking at surplus food, exploring how food grown in gardens and allotments can connect with the city's food system, and also identifying solutions, for example, where there are gluts that farmers can't sell, ensuring that that is still harvested and connect to the food system. So often what happens now, if there's, for example, an adverse weather event, or the climate is sort of not normal for that time of year, so for example, if we have a really rainy summer, which we had this year, that affects farmers' ability to farm and harvest and grow the produce that they have in the particular slot that they have been given. So for example, if they're supplying a food market, there is the expectation that they will provide that food in a certain time period, and if there's kind of unexpected climate, for example, then they kind of lose that slot. And because it is not cost effective to pick that, in order to kind of, if they've lost that slot, then they often just leave it rotting in the fields, because that's the most cost effective option. So that is crazy, isn't it, that there is food rotting in fields that could be going to people who need it. So that's an example of kind of looking at those gluts and making sure that things are still harvested through, for example, gleaning. The final sub-objective of the food sourcing workstream is to increase understanding of the local food system. So that might be through things like supporting schools and adult education providers to understand the food journey. And I had a great experience this time last year, where I went into a school and I did a lesson about where food comes from with some, I think they were year 9s or year 10s. And that was really interesting, seeing them kind of make the connections between things like seasonal produce, or like we know bananas don't necessarily grow in the UK, so where do they come from, or why do we expect them all the time? Things like that have been kind of, there's a really good opportunity in this work stream to be supporting schools and kind of supporting that education of people. And then finally, just increasing awareness of where local foods are available, when they're in season, where they can be purchased, and things like that, to really support people in this food sourcing work stream. So an example of some of the work that we've already been doing in this area is we've convened a food procurement group. So this group focuses on creating a platform for discussing the opportunities and challenges in public food procurement at a city level, with an emphasis on supporting local food sourcing in line with the objectives of the Birmingham Food System Strategy. So this draws inspiration from other local authorities in the UK and recognises that food can be a powerful driver of change, and local authorities should be at the forefront of efforts to shift to a healthier and fairer food system. So the aim of that group is to make food procured by the public sector more sustainable, healthier, and adhere to key ethical standards. And that workshop, I can't remember when it was, but that workshop involved a number of key anchor institutions who were kind of in the public procurement work. So that was food sourcing. Moving on to food transformation. So food transformation is all about transforming the food offer and diets to contain more diverse, nutritious and sustainable ingredients and less fat, salt and sugar. So the food transformation is about kind of how we turn raw ingredients into another food project. So that So that can involve things like adding ingredients like fat, salt, and sugar to create flavour, as well as texture and structure and longevity. And that happens in various ways, including manufacturers making ultra-processed food, restaurants creating dishes to serve to customers, and individuals cooking at home. And there's a growing body of research and spotlight upon the processing of food to create food products and its impact of health. On health. And so we want to see a city where food is transformed in ways that are delicious, environmentally sustainable, and include diverse, nutritious, and healthy ingredients. And so the sub-objectives of this work stream include making our city's food offer healthier, sustainable, and delicious. So that might be encouraging and supporting industry and food businesses to create new food offers, reformulate recipes, to include more nutritious and sustainable foods, and kind of supporting cooks, chefs, and food businesses as they do that. Also inspiring food technology innovation, again linking with that cross-cutting theme of innovation to improve food formulation within higher education and the food industry. And then utilising available powers and levers, such as those relating to planning and licensing, to encourage new businesses in Birmingham to provide delicious, nutritious and sustainable food. Also exploring citywide approaches and interventions to improve diets, and influencing regional, national and international policy to encourage reformulation and improve the food environment. And then the other sub-objective is around increasing the demand for food that's healthy and sustainable, so increasing understanding for food transformation and creating a diet that fosters demand for healthier and more sustainable food, and increasing opportunities to try a wide variety of delicious and sustainable food to increase familiarity with that. And so an example of some work that we've been doing in this area is the Full of Beans campaign. So Birmingham is developing a multi-strand campaign to increase consumption of beans and pulses in schools, with families and in food businesses. So in collaboration with the British Dietetic Association, we have collated a recipe bank of over 250 beans and pulses recipes, which is on the Samsung food platform, previously known as Whisk. So if you have the Whisk or Samsung Food app, you can search FOB to see all of the different recipe communities, from affordable food recipes to recipes for large gatherings, and so much more involving beans and pulses. The rationale behind this was that beans and pulses are great for our bodies, the planet, they're affordable, they're convenient and tasty, and so increasing consumption aligns with the objectives of the Birmingham Food System Strategy to consume a nutritious and varied diet while also reducing harm to the world around us. And we also had a Full of Beans mission at the Holidays Activities and Food Bring It On Brum clubs over the summer. So we provided resources as part of behavioural change intervention that was delivered through 70 of the holiday activities and food clubs over the summer, reaching approximately 4,200 children. And that involved kind of the opportunities for them to grow peas, which grow really quickly, to taste kidney beans, chickpeas, green lentils and butter beans, and to enjoy cooking activities in those groups. And then there will also take home resources around a kids activity pack and a Discover Beans and Pulses booklet for children and families to do at home. So that was the food transformation work stream. Moving on to food waste and recycling. This one is all around minimising food waste and unsustainable packaging throughout the food system, and maximising the repurposing and redistribution of surplus. So the first sub-objective here is to improve waste and recycling practices across the food system. So that's creating a culture and supporting a culture across the food system that avoids waste at every stage and upholds national legislation, working to understand barriers that stop people avoiding waste, encouraging food businesses to be waste wise, and utilising the cross-cutting themes of food skills and knowledge and food behaviour change to help people reduce waste. And then the second sub-objective is around supporting waste reduction innovation, making it easier and better for food management for households by enabling sort of hyper-local waste management innovation, for example, sharing of surplus food. And the surplus food is something that we've kind of been involved with. So in the UK, nearly 3 million tonnes of food waste is produced by manufacturers, hospitality and the food service and retail industry. And that is a sign of a broken food system, that so much food goes to waste, given the current cost of living crisis, that this food is going to landfill rather than on people's plates. And so we've commissioned a project through the Active Wellbeing Society to identify and map where surplus food is being wasted in Birmingham's local food system, and then to create a database and map of organisations to basically coordinate surplus food in the city, working with the Food Justice Network. There's also things here around exploring models of community collaboration with food producers and retailers, considering how to discourage harmful practices such as single-use plastics, exploring innovative approaches to reduce waste, and examining citywide approaches to overcome the challenges in this area. Moving on to food economy and employment, and the last two, and these two will be briefer. We want to be facilitating a thriving local food economy for all and maximising training and employment opportunities. And the first sub-objective here is around building a thriving, healthy and sustainable food economy. So that might be through further developing Birmingham's reputation as a food destination. We know that Birmingham has really been growing in people's estimations nationally and internationally. We won an award for food last year. I can't remember what it was called, but people are really starting to realise what many of us have known all along, which is that Birmingham has a fantastic food scene with lots of exciting things going on. And so we want to be celebrating businesses that innovate and lead in healthy, sustainable, ethical and affordable food approaches across the city, creating a strong local economy and culture, particularly where local, small and independent businesses, especially Black, Asian and minority ethnic group businesses, are supported and celebrated. We also want to be encouraging all businesses to become things like real living wage employers and model good workplace practices so that the sector becomes known for good jobs. We want to be supporting innovation using licensing tools and highlighting best practice through the Birmingham Food Revolution. And then the second sub-objective is strengthening the future food sector and food system workforce potential of the city through things like education and skills pipelines, working with education advisors to providers to understand the needs in the food system, and maximising the potential of national and local schemes like apprenticeships, industry placement years and work experience. And there's been some fantastic conversations and things happening already. Justin already mentioned this, for example, how we've engaged with hospitality in this, so I won't go into detail on that. And we've also had some really exciting projects starting to emerge. For example, one by Pip and Pals, which has been using a regular community artisan market on York Road to promote and encourage the establishment of new creative food businesses, with a particular emphasis on celebrating the diversity of the Kings Heath community. And that has been a kind of mentoring scheme for small businesses, and they've been able to test and prepare products at Kings Heath Artisan Market. So finally, the last work stream is food safety and standards, and this is around improving food safety and standards for Birmingham citizens and businesses. That's through supporting the implementation of policy, guidelines and best practice, including embedding awareness raising and sharing around things like allergens, cross-contamination, hygiene, hand washing, food safety, nutrition and healthy eating in the food system. Supporting food businesses, community food projects and those who handle food to be aware of and access appropriate training, and exploring methods to ensure implementation of food safety and standards. In this workstream, we also want to be recognising good practice through, for example, promoting the food hygiene rating scheme, supporting industry and food businesses to be recognised for healthy, sustainable and ethical food offers and working practices, and making it easier for individuals and food businesses to identify food that is healthy, sustainable and ethical. And finally, this workstream involves coordinating action and innovation. So that might be mapping the organisation's regulatory bodies, policies and practice that impact food safety and standards in Birmingham and facilitating collaboration, exploring approaches to improve monitoring of food safety and standards, and working with people in this area to facilitate best practice, innovation, awareness, and also do that globally and nationally through our kind of city position to collaborate on this. So that was food safety and standards, and there's been some work already linking with the environmental health and health protection teams to ensure that we are working to make Birmingham as safe an environment as possible. And then next slide, please, Bradley. So just in the last 5 minutes, we just wanted to highlight some of our local food legends. So the Birmingham Food Revolution is part of this kind of cultural shift that's emerging in our city, showing that demand for environmentally sustainable, ethical, nutritious and local food is increasing. And Birmingham is leading the way with innovative projects that build this cultural change further. Justin described it as the jewels in the necklace. There are so many fantastic things that are already going on in the city. And through the strategy and action plan, we want to shine a light on the amazing initiatives taking place in our city and inspire others to join the food revolution. And a way that this is currently working out is we are seeking out and highlighting local food legends who are doing fantastic things in our city in line with our vision of creating a bold, fair, sustainable and prosperous food system and economy where food choices are nutritious, affordable and desirable, so all citizens can achieve their potential for a happy, healthy life. So those are our food legends, and you can see some of them on the screen, including Lewis from UCB, Fair Share, Bite Back, Wade from Island Delight, Jackie from Peach, which is looking at researching children's eating psychology, Matthew from Hillstone, who I've already seen is on the call, Bob from Plant and Pulse, also we got Felipe from Mother Gardens, Anne from Incredible Surplus, and Charlene from Harborne Food School. So it's really great to see these, and we'll be hearing from some of our food legends later on, so I don't want to just steal their thunder too much by kind of giving them long biographies, so I'll let that kind of whet your appetite for some of our food legends discussions later on. But I also just wanted to mention the Birmingham Food Legends Fund, which was a grant scheme we ran at the beginning of this year, where we had more than £150,000 worth of grants to celebrate the launch of the Birmingham Food Revolution. So that supported initiatives which fit into our vision, and through that we supported 44 projects with the Food Legends Fund, and we already kind of operationalised some bits of the strategy in this. So the projects had to meet at least one of our principles, so collaborate, empower, or equalise, and we also asked them to kind of describe how the work was people focused, working towards our ambition, addressing key priorities, and effective and realistic, which is part of the FADMAP tool, which is going to be talked about later. Again, I won't steal the thunder of whoever is presenting that, but again, whetting your appetite. And through that we funded lots of growing projects, things like foraging walks, cooking classes, composting work, fantastic work in getting people qualifications to be able to enter the food industry, and all sorts of things. And I think, yeah, we're going to be hearing from some of the people who received that grant later on in the session. Next slide, please. And back over to Sarah.
Thanks, Rosie. I think you've summarised a huge amount of things that are happening across the city.
I did say it would be a whistle-stop tour, so
yeah, and you did the whet my appetite, so yeah, that's another food one. Yeah, and just to mention as well some like the amazing organisations and partners across the city that are absolutely fundamental to our approach and the projects that we've been working on already. So we've got so many universities in the city. We've got University of Birmingham, who've been supporting with areas of work, Aston University, University College Birmingham. We've got research collaborations like the Mandala Consortium, which involves the UKRI funding and Cambridge University as well as other partners. We've got amazing organisations and innovators like the Diverse Nutrition Association, community organisations like the Active Wellbeing Society, as well as surplus food organisations like Fair Share, who have been really key to helping us understand the need across the city, from the perspective that they have with the food deliveries that they have, and they've been involved with supporting us with our grant projects as well. Got Communities Engage and Thrive, the Young Foundation, Caroline Walker Trust, and also the Local Government Association. And I think this isn't even touching the surface of the amount of partners that we work with across the city, but it's just to give you a little feel of the types of organisations that have already been leading on projects on the city. These are just the projects that we happen to be involved with too. There are many, many more that are being independently driven and are taking place. So what's really key is, if you do know about some really great projects happening, please let us know, because we're capturing case studies for all of the work streams, trying to make sure that everyone can connect to each other and be aware of what's happening. So if you think we're missing something, we probably are. So let us know. We do not know everything. So please do reach out to the Food System PH at birmingham.gov.uk email address, or connect it in with our groups. And we've also got forms on our Food Revolution area of the Birmingham City Council website, where you can put things in forms and let us know stuff as well. So there's many ways we can get you to reach out. But yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you to these organisations as well, because we have been developing the strategy at the same time as delivering a huge number of projects. So that's always a challenging space when you're trying to do all things at the same time. But it's also meant that all these types of projects have been able to directly inform what the strategy has been becoming. So it has been incredibly helpful to be that busy as well. So there are two sides to it. Next slide, please. So over to Bradley. Thank you everyone for tuning into that section.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Sarah. That was, yeah, impressive. I mean, if anyone gets a chance to have a look at the strategy, do go onto the Birmingham Food Revolution web pages to check out the full strategy. But yeah, Sarah and Rosie just amazingly reduced a 73-page strategy to a first 40-minute section, 50-minute section. Congratulations. So do check out the full strategy, all the details and information within it, because it goes into so much more. And just to answer Tilly's question, I think Rosie's doing a typed answer at the moment, but part of our partnerships with the Sustainable Food Places, but also if you come along to the session tomorrow, you'll hear about our hope for the UK Urban Food Network is going to focus on how we connect the West Midlands, but also the UK as an entire nation, and all of the local authorities, the food partnerships, the food systems, and how we link into the Sustainable Food Places who are already doing that, particularly with food partnerships, such as those that are happening across the UK, Bristol, Manchester, London, and others. So we are definitely connecting, and we want to connect more, we want to learn more, we want to work more with each other. Okay, so so I don't want to cut into everybody's quick 15-minute leg stretch and breather and water, and I know I definitely need to stretch my legs. So thank you to everybody at the beginning. It's been a fantastic start to the conference so far. So everyone, you've got just under 15-minute break now, and then we'll be coming back to the Celebrating Our Birmingham Food Legends panel, and as Rosie highlighted, we'll be having some of the Food Legend grant applicants and receivers speaking there, but also some of our other food legends and some of the new food legends that we've come across in the recent weeks getting ready for the workshops. So we've got some incredible voices and experiences and insights to come back to. So you've all got 15 minutes and then we'll be starting back at 12:15. So see you then.